My name is Sophia. I am the Partnership Manager for the Pre-16 team in the Schools and Colleges team at the University of East London. I've also got two of my colleagues with me this morning, so I'm just going to ask them to introduce themselves so you know who they are.
Hi everyone, my name's Tamina and I'm a project coordinator for the secondary events team.
Hi everyone, and I'm Jo and I'm a project coordinator for the outreach and access team.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, Tamina and Jo. So Tamina and Jo will be co-presenting with me today. Okay, so just a little bit about the University of East London. Very quickly, we've been established in 1898. We are three campus university, so you can see our oldest bit of the campus in the bottom right-hand corner there, the red brick. And then you can see our newest campus, which opened in 2004, I believe, in the top right-hand corner, and that is our main campus in Docklands. So we have two campuses in Stratford, about a 10-minute walk from Westfield or Stratford Station, and then we have the Docklands campus, which you can walk onto from Cyprus DLR station. We have students from over 135 different countries. However, we do have also a very high number of students from London, in particular East London area as well. So what we do, we work in the outreach and access team, in particular with schools and colleges. So we aim to support years 6 to 13 to help you make informed decisions about your future and to also support your learning. So this is part of that today. So obviously you're in year 11, things haven't gone to plan this year because of what's happened globally. But you can still use this time to plan ahead for your future, and this is what we want to do with you today at this point. But just to say that the aims of today's session, so hopefully you'll understand a little bit more about what motivates you, what you're good at, and how that links to future education options and careers. So this is all about investigating your future options today and giving you a steer into which direction you want to go in and planning ahead, okay? So, and also we're going to give you the tools to narrow down your options. So there's so much information out there, and sometimes there's information that you don't know about or a career that you don't know about. So we want to help you narrow down your options without limiting yourself, basically. So I'm going to start off with a quote today. So if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So I've put this quote in today because I think it's particularly pertinent to this webinar. I would like to know why you think I've put this quote in. So, you know, I've talked about a little bit about what we're going to be doing today, but I'd like to hear your thoughts as to why you think I've put this quote in. Before we hand over and read from the Q&A box there, I'd like to ask Tamina, first of all, what do you think this quote means?
So to me, I think it's trying to say if you don't know exactly what you want to do, it's okay. It's not the end of the world because there are plenty of opportunities out there.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There are loads of opportunities, as I say, and it's okay not to know, but equally it's also good to investigate your options. But so thank you for that. And Jo, what do you think?
So I think that most people in life, you know, would travel 20 different pathways before they actually find something that they really enjoy, they really love, and it's okay because you gain skills along each different path.
Absolutely, you definitely do gain skills along the way, depending on the kind of experiences you have in life. Absolutely. I think it's really important to recognise that, you know, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, lots of people had a job for life, and that is what they would do their entire careers. And there still are people who do that, but actually now it is very much about investigating lots of different options, and people tend to move around a lot and not stick with the same company and add lots of different strings to their bow. So that's also important to bear in mind as well. And there's also loads of new careers that just didn't exist, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago, because the world's evolved. We're far more in a digital age. So it's important to understand actually what's coming up next. Okay, so I'll just put your mind at rest, basically, and tell you why I put this quote in. So if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So it's about planning, basically. This is about planning. So for me, it's like, wouldn't it be nice if you did your research now, nice and early, worked out what you wanted to do, instead of just going along, having tunnel vision, just trying to get on with your exams and your studies and not really thinking about the next steps. Because what can happen is that you end up going down a road that you don't particularly like, and that you just take a job on that you're not particularly interested in because you need to make a living. So I think it's, if you can, now is the time to plan ahead. Now is the time to investigate your options and think, okay, well, I'm going to go on to sixth form or college soon. I'm going to be doing these subjects. What's the next steps? Which degree do I want to go in, and where's it going to take me next in terms of my career? So, and is that the direction that I want to go in? So that's why I've put this quote in. So I want to understand where you are at the moment. Again, in the Q&A box, if you could point down if you're number 1, number 2, or number 3. So none of these are wrong or right. It's just for me to get a feel for where you're at, basically. And so I can direct this webinar a bit better as well. So number 1, I know exactly what I want to do when I grow up and how to get there. Number 2, I know what I'm interested in, but I don't know how this relates to a career or my future education. And number 3, I don't know what I'm interested in, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. So if you are number 1, that's great, amazing that you've got a good insight into what you want to do. If you're number 2, if you're kind of unsure, but you have a general interest in certain things, that's also fine. And number 3, if you really don't know, like you're not really sure, then I'd like to know that too. So just to ask Tamina, actually, while we wait for responses to come in, Tamina, when you think back to year 11, what camp did you fall into?
So I would say I was probably a number 3. So I didn't really know what I was interested in or what I wanted to do next. And I think that's because I didn't have all the information that, you guys have today. So I didn't know about taster days. My school didn't really run them. But I think if I did have that information, it would have really helped me to identify some of my skills and my strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, I think particularly for people in number 2 or 3, it comes down to actually researching and I'll give you the tools today to do this. And actually that will help you figure out something that you may have not heard of, but you're really intrigued by, and you're like, okay, I'll look into that a little bit more. So absolutely, sometimes it just comes down to a lack of information, but you do have to be proactive and kind of do the research for yourself, as well as take up the opportunities that are offered to you. But I'll talk about that in a little more detail later on in this webinar. How about you, Jo? What camp did you fall into in year 11?
So in year 11, I was number 1. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I had a strong passion for dance. I was training every day after school, and I knew what colleges I wanted to go to, and I knew how I wanted to become a dancer. So for me, I was very, very clear in what I wanted to do. Now, I've got to that point, and then when I found out I was doing it as a job, I obviously had outgoings and houses to think of and things, and I ended up doing something completely different, which I'm doing now. So
yeah, so this is actually quite an important message. So you might have like quite 2 divergent kind of ideas and passions. So obviously Jo knew she was good at dance, she was passionate about it, she went down the career route of dance. But actually you need to think about some of the practicalities of things as well. So having to pay your rent, or if you want to have some level of security, it's important to consider those aspects, and they might not be so important now in year 11, but as you get older and you want maybe different things from life, your priorities might change. So a lot of the research we'll talk about is actually considering those things, like what is the average UK salary for a dancer, for example, if that's something that you're interested in too. But Jo's kind of thought about it, and obviously her other passion of kind of helping people and informing people has led her to this career now. So it's important to bear those the different things that you need to consider in mind as well. So I'm going to hand back to Tamina and just see if we've got anything in the Q&A box from anybody about which camp they fall into.
Thanks, Sophia. So we've got the majority that said number 2. We've got someone who said 1-ish. So she said she knows what she wants to do as a career, but she's struggling with knowing how to get there.
Okay, amazing. So that's really informative for me. And as I say, I'm going to give you the tools to kind of work out where you want to go and access the information that you need to make a decision. So you know what you're interested in, great. You may not know like the variety of careers that are related to that. And we're going to investigate that today. So thank you so much, guys, for your input. Please do keep letting us know any questions that you have throughout the webinar. So I'm going to take you through the tree of growth, which is what this webinar is based on. So there's different things I want you to look at, which relate to different aspects. And when you put it all together, you'll have a bit of a robust model for working out what's best for you and how to go about researching your next steps, okay? So the roots are kind of what inspires you, okay? What do you value? So for me, for example, I really enjoy helping people. I you know, for me, doing a job where you're not helping somebody in some capacity wouldn't be attractive to me, which is partly why I do what I do. But equally, I need things like, you know, stability. That's really important to me as well. So think about what you value. What do you want? It might be that you want to make loads of money. Like that is the fundamental thing for you. Or it might be that, you know, you're particularly passionate about a certain area. Like, I don't know, maybe equality or fairness or something like that, something you really value. But make sure it's a value that comes from you, okay? So not your parents, not your teachers. What's important to you, something intrinsic, okay, something that comes from you. Because you know, doing a job is really important when you're spending that many hours working, that you're doing something that's meaningful, okay? So bear that in mind. The second bit is your strength. So what are you good at? A particular subject, for example? Do you have a particular skill that you would consider a strength? So for Joe, it was dance, but you might be, say, a strong athlete, for example. There are things that you can do to incorporate that into your career, for example, and also your learning. So, for example, if you are a good athlete, you could maybe get a sports scholarship with UEL. That is something that we do, and you can keep those two things alive at the same time. So studying and your passion for sport, or it could be that you're very logical and you have a very scientific mind, and you know that a career in science is right for you, but you may not know which in particular is right for you. So which career? So we're going to look at that today as well. So your branches and your leaves are basically your education and experience and your goals. So these kind of go hand in hand, okay? And I'm going to talk about goals before I talk about education in this presentation, simply because your roots and your strengths will lead you to your goals, okay? And then you need to work out the path how to get there. So what experience do you need? You know, the investigations that you need to do, joining things like taster days and getting a university degree, if that's relevant. Those are things you need to work out. Okay, so I'm going to take you through each one of these today. So just looking a little bit more closely at motivations, I would like to know in the Q&A box, please, if you're happy to share, what's important to you? Again, I've put that in capitals, not your parents, not your teachers, not your friends, you as an individual, okay? What is it that you're passionate about? And what makes you happy? So sometimes it's hard to know what you actually really value. You have to actually spend a bit of time thinking about it. But do think about it, because as I say, there will be things that you would be involved in, or you're, say, more attracted to watch, for example, on YouTube or anything like that. Like it could be self-development stuff or whatever it is you're interested in, but that alludes to what you're motivated by as well. So what makes you happy? What's important to you? Or on the flip side of that, what can you not compromise on? So for me, I know I want a job helping people in some capacity. That could have been doing nursing, that could have been a clinical psychologist, that could be a careers advisor, it could be a multitude of different things, right? But I could not maybe do like a job in sales, you know, maybe selling, I don't know, a product like a Hoover or something. Like that would not motivate me. I'm not interested in it. I don't like selling to people. I like, you know, advising and guiding people. That's where I'm at. Okay, I mean, as I said, you know, you may not be clear on what motivates you, but I do have a tool on the next slide which will help guide you, okay?
I can give a few examples if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to me, what's important is being able to help people, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So I work with young people, something that I really enjoy. Another thing, what makes me happy is doing something that I'm really passionate about as well. So I feel like you should always try and find things that you enjoy doing and something that you're happy about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be things like, just enjoying the spotlight. Some people want to be front and center view, and some people are just happy to just get on and do something and let what they do speaks for itself rather than, being front and center of things. So that might be a motivation too.
So we've got someone who said creating art and talking to people is what makes her happy.
Wonderful. So creating art and talking to people, and I'm sure there are a multitude of careers that would suit that actually. But for the rest of you, this is a really good tool. Okay, this is what I did. So I'm not surprised by these results because I know what I'm like. I know myself. So on the right hand side are my results. So you do a questionnaire which is linked to kind of your motivation and your preferences, and then you get some areas that match you and your motivations, as I say. So for me, it's like empath, guide, inspirer, solver, creator, and that kind of, some of them I'm like, okay, a creator. I didn't really see myself as a creative person, but okay, I'll take that. But I think empath definitely resonates with me, and obviously that's my highest result, followed by guide, which again resonates really well with me. And then on the far right, you can see the pink arrows, which then lead you to careers that relate to those areas. But I'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards. Okay, so this is a really good tool to start, okay, as a starter. So the other quiz is one based around your personality. Okay, now I don't want you to get hung up on results. These are both tools, okay? That's what they're meant to be. So I'm going to add in a little bit of a disclaimer here, is that if you think a result comes up and you're like, well, that's not really me, that's okay. You can discount that result, but it's just a tool to help guide you, okay? So I did this quiz. It's quite fun, but it's basically a quiz based on a very famous personality test, which is called Myers-Briggs. And is pretty much the industry standard. But I've come out as basically you get matched to an animal, and I've come up as a polar bear. So you can see here that we've got kind of lots of careers that polar bears go into. So it's things like accountancy, law, uniform services, surveyor, business administration, and management. And some of them I'm just like, yeah, I don't see myself in uniform services. It's just not me. And that's fine. I could have discounted that in year 11 because I know I don't really want to go into like the military or the police or anything like that. But actually looking at it, I was like, oh, maybe business administration, maybe management. And I am a manager now. So, lo and behold, that suits my personality type. But some will resonate more than others. And this is about guiding you and not necessarily saying, well, you couldn't do any other career. It's about kind of helping you investigate careers that you could go into. So that's your motivations and your personality, and that's a good place to start, as I say. So I would encourage you to do those two tests. So the other thing is bearing in mind your strengths, okay? So if you're not sure what your strengths are, ask somebody who knows you well, okay? Ask your parents, ask your friends, ask your, your teachers. Ask people, like, what am I good at? If you're not sure yourself, what are your strengths? What you're good at? Ask somebody. So, I know that I'm quite good at helping people, and I've had that my entire life. Like, oh, Sophia's really, really helpful. I used to get it at school. I get it now. So I know that's one of my strengths. But whilst we wait for responses, Tamina, what do you think your strengths are?
So for me, I'd say a quality of mine is being a loyal person. I think that's what my friends would say as well. And then a skill, I'd say I'm quite adaptable, so I can adapt to new situations very easily.
Excellent. Yeah, and I would say that too. I think you've got your hands in a lot of pots, and that it's evident that you are quite adaptable, because I've worked with you for a little while now, and I definitely recognise that as a quality and a skill that you have. How about yourself, Jo?
So for me, I would say I'm quite a sociable person as a quality, which also then makes me quite confident. So the skill I would say that I'm good at doing is probably like a leadership skill, and directing people in the right way. That would be what I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you like taking the lead, directing people. You're a bit of a visionary. You can as I say, direct people. So that's brilliant. What I've also put there is the difference between a quality and a skill. So I'm hoping that a few of you have had a chance to post some of your strengths. I also want you to post up what you think the difference is between a quality and a skill. So if you can have a think about that and tell me what you would define as a quality and what you would define as a skill and how you would define those, please jot those down in the Q&A box as well. But I'll just hand over to Tamina quickly while you have a think about that aspect. If there's been any strengths that people have identified.
Yep, so we've got Ian who said my strengths probably are all-rounded, but I'd say I lean towards a more creative side to things. I like to create, but I also like to think and share my opinions.
Okay, so thinking and sharing your opinions is actually a really key skill. It comes under communication, and it's a really good one to have. Like, it's good to share your opinions. It's fundamental to really good team working. And that is something that we talk about later on as one of the key employability skills. So keep that up. That's a really good one. Anything else, Tamina?
Yep, so we've got someone who said, I feel like I am organised. We've got someone who said, I'm good at problem solving. Someone has said, attributes are my qualities, which you might naturally have. Again, skills, on the other hand, are things you've learned through work, training, or education, or general life experience.
That is a great definition, I have to say. Really, really well done there, because you're absolutely right. Qualities are more about personal attributes. So again, a bit more linked to your personality, and skills are things that can be learnt. Okay, so I'm going to give you this exercise next, which is a load of words that I've put together, and I would like you to pick out one word and tell me if you think it's a quality or if you think it's a skill. Okay, so whilst you think about the words that you've got up in front of you, if you could just pick one and tell me if you think it's a skill and a quality, skill or a quality, and why, that would be good. Tamina, if I could ask you to pick on a word, please.
So I'd pick on loyal, and then I'd also pick on networking.
Okay, and which one's a skill, which one's a quality?
So I'd say a quality would be loyal and networking would be a skill.
Yeah, absolutely. So loyalty is something a bit more intrinsic, I would say, absolutely, and a bit more about yourself. And networking is a skill that can be learnt. I would also say that can be linked to personality to an extent. If you're naturally more outgoing, then you may find networking a bit easier. You may not. But if you're particularly introverted as an individual, you might have to, move forward a little bit more slowly with something like networking. But there are some techniques that you can use to encourage networking. So one way to encourage networking is, okay, why would you network? Think about why do you network? And it's because you want to glean information from other people who are more in the know than you are, right? So where there's an opportunity to network and to be proactively going out and speaking to people, say like now you're looking at careers, you're looking at your next steps. Where you can network at this point is going out and finding people who do the job that you're interested in and asking them questions like, do you mind if you could just let me know, why you do this job? What are the key things you do every day? So that you can find out, actually, would this be something that suits you? Yeah. How about yourself, Joe? Could you pick out 2 words?
Yeah, so caring or kind being more of a quality. Obviously, this is something that comes in your nature and as part of your personality, whereas to be more organised is a skill, and it's something that you can work on to be more organised, to prepare yourself a little bit more to become more organised. So a skill you can always work on, I suppose.
Absolutely, that's really good. And Tamina, do we have anything in the Q&A box from anybody?
Yep, so we've got compassion is a hard thing to learn. It's an attribute. Talkative, quality, presenter is a skill.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not that hugely talkative because I'm actually an introvert, but I present every day, like pretty much every day in my job in some way. Either it's in a meeting or it's doing a live webinar or whatever it is. I'm using my communication skills and I'm presenting. So this is the thing with qualities and skills. Okay, you may be more naturally inclined to some rather than others. Okay, so compassionate was one example that somebody brought up just a moment ago. It doesn't mean that if you don't have that natural inclination to be compassionate. I feel that I do, as an empathetic individual, that I am quite compassionate and I can understand other people's points of view, and that is definitely integral to my personality. But that's also an aspect of emotional intelligence, and that is something that you can get better at, actually, and different situations call for different skills. So I'm a manager. I need to be empathetic to my team, right? I need to be empathetic to their situation. You know, if they're struggling with anything, I need to be empathetic. So there are points in various different careers where you need to use different skill sets, but you will use some skill sets more than others. And the reason why I bring this up is because, you know, if you're thinking of a career and say, you know, you're a natural extrovert, working in a lab on your own or not doing much talking may not lend itself to your personality, and it's worth bearing it in mind, but it's not the be all and end all. So to demonstrate that, everybody, I want you to just fold your arms. Just fold your arms across your chest like you would in an assembly. You sat down when you were asked, you know, in year 6 to fold your arms. Joe and Tamina, are you folding your arms?
Yep.
Brilliant. I want you to now fold your arms the other way, the way that you wouldn't naturally fold your arms. How does that feel, Joe and Tamina?
So to me, it felt quite unnatural.
Okay.
Yeah, quite odd.
It feels odd, right? But it doesn't mean you can't do it. So this is the point about skills and qualities, right? You may have a more natural inclination for certain things over others, but it doesn't mean that you can't do the other things. Okay, so this is why I wanted to mention this in particular. You may have a certain personality type that lends itself to, say, being organized. Doesn't mean you can't learn those skills. It doesn't mean that you can't be, a presenter if you're more introverted, for example. It just may take you a bit longer to get there. Okay, but you can absolutely do it. So I'm going to move on for that. Thank you for your input, everybody. So as I mentioned earlier, these are the top 5 transferable skills that employers are looking for, and these are things that you should be working on now. So things like team working. In school, for example, you may be working on a presentation with 5 different people that you don't normally work with, but that's what life is like, actually. You know, you might find yourself in an office and you'll be working with people that are not your friends, and you have to get on with people generally. So learning those skills of, you know, how to work out what works best for everybody and working effectively as a team is a really key skill. Communication also comes into that. So you know, our student who said about you know, being a good questioner and getting involved and giving an opinion is so key to good teamwork and good communication. Problem solving, you know, and that comes into, you know, being proactive. So the fact that you're all here online and taking a proactive step to inform your own futures is a really, really good indicator for me that you're actually problem solvers and you're being proactive. You know, that's really key. So well done, guys. Self-belief. Self-belief, that can come from experience. So do give yourself as many experiences as you can. Okay, go and speak to people, get yourself some work experience, investigate, research, so you know you have a very solid argument for why you want to go into a particular career, as an example. Okay, but building your confidence comes with building your experience. And self-management, so again, that's things like being organized, being proactive, going out and doing your research, reaching out to people when you need to. These are all really important skills. So I'm going to stop there. Does anyone have any questions so far? We will be moving on to sort of career options next and educational options, but we've basically covered motivations and strengths up to now, and we'll be doing the second half in a moment. So which career suits your personality, motivations and strengths? So going back to the job match, I obviously clicked on the pink arrow, and this was for empath, and I've just given you a screenshot there on the right hand side of jobs that suit my empathetic side. So we've got things like adult guidance worker, advice worker, art therapist. So yeah, I find these jobs really attractive actually, because it's not far from what I do working with young people in schools and colleges. Not far at all. So, but there might be other considerations that you'd like to take into, into consideration. So art therapy, I don't know if you need to be good at art yourself to do art, to be an art therapist. I'm not sure, but I could click on that and I can find out the skills and work experience required, for example. So what do I actually need to be good at to do that role? Equally, salary is important. So in Jo's example, she found that she struggled a little bit as a dancer financially. So you can click on each one of these and actually see what the salary is like. So this is called labour market information, basically working out how many jobs are available and working out, is there the opportunity to progress in that role equally. So you may be able to go into a management role, for example. And also, how does the salary compare to, say, the UK average? Like, does that meet with what you would like to be in line with in terms of money? Also tells you about the qualifications that you need and career prospects. Okay, so that's all interlinked. So this is part of your research, and these are the different things you need to be considering in the future. The second one, the icould.com link. So obviously that was more linked to personality. You can go into icould.com/explore, and Jo's going to post that up for you in the featured box. And it gives you a multitude of different areas. So you can see there, like accountancy and financial services was one of the areas that came up for me. What I really like about icould.com is that it has videos of people who do those jobs, and they kind of talk you through their day job. They talk you through why they went into that career, and that's really useful to hear from somebody who actually does that position. So obviously we're currently in a very difficult situation. We're in lockdown. You can't obviously approach people face to face, but you can look at these videos. For example, if you don't have any contacts that you can think of who do these kind of positions, look at these videos and do your research online. Or you can, get in contact with professional bodies. So if you're interested in, being a lawyer, you can look at the Law Society page, for example, which is their kind of part of their profession, one of their professional bodies, and they do give like advice on career advice there as well. So it's about doing your research. But again, there's lots of labour market information here. Again, the job availability. What I like on this website as well is it actually compares the salary to the UK average salary. So if you definitely want to be above UK average salary, it gives you that on this page, as well as kind of the jobs availability and the skills required, and kind of the degree routes if you need to get a degree for that position as well. So what do you need to get there? So we talked about motivation, strengths, careers, and investigating those careers, and then taking a step back, the route to get there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about university at this point, because actually lots and lots of jobs out there require you to have a university degree, and to earn higher salaries. Actually, graduates on average earn £100,000 more than non-graduates over their lifetime, and that disparity is actually much bigger for women. Okay, so it can be up to 250,000, but it does depend which career you go into. So a little bit about university. There are currently over 395 providers of higher education in the UK, and there are over 50,000 courses to choose from. It's a lot of choice, and it's a bit bamboozling, to be honest. So how do you navigate this overwhelming choice? And again, I'm going to give you some top tips on how to navigate your choices to slim down your options, basically. So things you need to consider: do you want to stay at home? Like, do you want to move away and live in student accommodation, and that frees you up to move to any area of the UK or even abroad? Okay, so for me, I'm a Londoner. I was born and bred here. I'm used to the hustle and bustle, and I think if I was to move away to, I don't know, Hull or Plymouth, which are a lot quieter, I might struggle with that a little bit. So I would definitely think carefully about the location if you are moving away. And one thing that I always say to students is, if you were to buy a house or rent a flat, would you not go and visit that house or flat? And obviously every student goes, of course I would, because I'm going to be living there. It's the same with university. You're going to spend 3 years there, especially if you're thinking of moving away. visit the university. If there's one thing you come away with today, go to the open day, speak to the lecturers, see if you like the course, see if you like the environment, see if you like the university culture, and can you see yourself there? Okay, that's the fundamental question you need to ask yourself. Think about the facilities that are available to you. So, for example, at UEL, if sport is really important to you, we have a state-of-the-art gym that's open to our students. To tell you how good it is, basically the US basketball team in the run up to the 2012 Olympics used that as their training base. That's how good it is. Okay. Look at the student reviews, not only of the university, but of the course that you're interested in, because the university course could be ranked really, really highly, but the university itself may not be. So think about where your priorities lie. And also, what opportunities are available? So are there trips abroad? Are there industry placement? Because that will add to your CV and your ability to gain work experience. So those are things are really important. So at UEL, for example, we have the Going Global fund. So we fund students to go abroad as part of their degree. And that's something that you can apply for. So choosing a course, not all courses with the same title are the same. So to give you an example, history, right? History is actually really vast and it can vary quite a lot. So you could have a history degree which actually focuses more upon the political aspects of history, or you could have a history course that focuses on medieval times. You could have a course that focuses on modern history, but actually that's the last 300 years. So look at the modules. So the modules are the units of learning within a degree, and work out if that's the bit of history, for example, that you want to learn about, because it can vary a lot. Joint or single honours. So I did a psychology degree, just a straight psychology degree, which was a single honours, but I could have done it jointly. So I could have done it jointly with a complementary subject such as economics or sociology or social policy. And there's lots of different combinations, which is why there's 50,000 courses out there, because there's lots of different combinations that you can have. Entry requirements. So obviously the better you do in exams, the more choice you have in terms of the universities you can go to. If you obviously achieve lesser exam results, and that counts for GCSEs as well as A-levels or BTECs or whatever you go on to next year, both count. Like, you need to perform well in both. Rankings are something to consider. Also employability prospects. So there are employability figures for every course or every area. So it's worth considering that. Think about how you're assessed. So some universities don't consider your first year at all towards your final grade. Some universities might give a weighting of about 20 or 30%. It just depends on the university. Equally, some universities say, well, no, this course is 100% based on the exam and your coursework throughout the year isn't counted. Or they may say, well, actually, this is all coursework, or it might be somewhere in between. So it does depend on the course. So think about that and think about how you're assessed. And also what opportunities are there, like I say, like industry placements, going abroad, all those different things. So how to find out more? On the left-hand side, I've put up the menu for the post-16 part of our website, just to give you an idea of the kind of things you can join. So we've got things like taster days, we've got summer schools, we've got obviously the university open days, which I would encourage you to go to, and also research what the students say as well. But every university does similar courses like this. So again, if you're interested in a particular university, going and doing a summer school with them whilst you're in sixth form or college, that would be a sensible thing to do. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up at this point and just tell you a little bit of a summary of what we talked about. So you should now know some of the tools to help you narrow down your options. You should now know how to investigate career and educational options and have an insight in how to plan your future. So I hope you found this webinar useful. So please do fill in the survey. I'm happy to answer any last questions in this last couple of minutes, but equally, do check out the webinars that we have coming up. We have webinars every Thursday, 10 a.m. Do check out the schools and colleges link. Scroll down and click on upcoming events and you'll be able to see all of our webinars. So Tamina, can I just hand over and see if there's any final questions?
Yep, so we've got a couple questions. Do you have any advice as to what I can do during this lockdown so that it can benefit me in the long run?
So as I say, doing the everything that I've said in this webinar, basically, thinking about your careers, doing those quizzes, and researching jobs that you can be doing in the future. So again, if I think you said you were a creative person, maybe like art therapist comes up for you as a result, for example. Start looking at videos and researching maybe professional bodies and what that job entails, and start getting yourself some experience. If you can find any kind of companies that do that kind of thing, seeing if you can go and get some work experience, or speaking to somebody remotely at this point about what they do for a living. Lots of people are actually very willing to help young people understand what they do for a living. So you can make that approach and start thinking about, well, what are the skills that I need? Maybe doing some voluntary work as well, maybe not currently, but anything that will help you show an interest in whatever you're interested in doing. And also that looks really good on your personal statements to show that you've actually done the research and you've thought very carefully about the university course you want to go on to, will stand you in really good stead for the future. And what was the other question, Tamina?
So we've got someone who said, can you have a passion in something but decide to pursue another career because of the salary?
Absolutely, you can. So you can do two things concurrently. So as I say, at our university, we have sports scholars. So they are top performing athletes. Actually, so we've had about 6 of our students compete in the Olympics or Paralympics. Although there are other bursaries that are involved in sport as well. You can absolutely have two passions. And lots of people do that. So Jo's a very specific example. She has a passion for dance, but that's not the be all and end all. And she has other interests as well. So I would say, obviously, salary is very important. But if you can marry up the two things, like your passion and the salary, that would be the best thing. And there may be a job out there. There's so many jobs out there that, you might think, well, actually, this suits my needs. This suits the majority. It ticks a lot of my boxes. So start doing the research from now, because there may be a career that you just haven't heard about that actually matches your requirements. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Was there anything else?
So we've got someone who said, what kind of things can we be doing at this time to build our CV?
Okay, so as I say, doing the research is the first port of call. Okay, so look at icod.com, look at the videos, start looking at professional bodies, start thinking about joining things like taster days and summer schools that will show an interest in that subject, particularly when it comes to applying to university, just to show that you've been proactive and said, well, I've been on the science summer school for X university, I learned XYZ there. Try to get work experience, try to network with people who are in that industry so that you can maybe go and shadow them for a day, obviously when lockdown lifts, but start doing that investigation from now, because it takes longer than you think. Okay, thank you for that question. And the final question?
Yep, so we've got someone who said, what about students who don't want to go to university?
If you don't want to go to university, there are obviously other options. So you can do an apprenticeship, for example. You can do lots of different things. So if you don't want to go to uni, that's absolutely fine. It's your choice. And you may decide to go into a career that you decide, actually, I don't need to go to university. That's perfectly fine. You can go onto there's a national website for apprenticeships. So that is something you may want to look into if you don't want to go down the uni route, because it still means you're gaining a qualification and you're working at the same time. But that's exactly what you're doing. You're doing two things at the same time, and that can be quite difficult. But it's worth looking at the apprenticeship route. But just to say, by not having a degree, it can be limiting. So if there is a career that you have in mind and you've done your research and actually you found that these careers really, really suit you, and it may be that you need to go down the uni route. And as I say, yes, university is expensive, but actually it means that you can apply to much higher positions, and lots of jobs require a degree. So again, if you have a particular passion, you could do a degree, say, in history, but that a lot of graduate jobs, if you decide to go down a graduate route, will just say, we want you to have a really good grade in any discipline. Okay, unless it's something very specific. A lot of jobs are actually we just want to know that you can perform well. We know that you've done well at uni, so that's something to also bear in mind. But absolutely, I'm just pointing out some of the limitations around that as well, though. If you don't want to go to uni, there are limitations. So I think I'll stop there. I'd like to just say again, thank you to everybody who's participated. You make these webinars what they are. So thank you. And also thank you to Joe and Tamina for being my co-hosts today. I hope it's been really interesting and informative. I wish you well in your futures, and don't forget to look us up if you want to join any more of the webinars or anything that's happening in terms of taste days and summer schools when you go to sixth form or college. Okay, thank you guys.